So Deadeye is a problem. So with patch 10.0, Wargaming went ahead and reworked the commander system in the game to make a separate tree for all classes of ship uh, that there are. So for battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and aircraft carriers. And there is one skill for the battleship tech tree that is kind of breaking the game right now, and definitely needs to be significantly nerfed or reworked, and that is Deadeye. This is a skill that gives you 10% better dispersion, provided there are no enemy ships spotted within your standard concealment range. Now, I've heard conflicting people tell me that standard concealment is actually your ship's base concealment without any modifiers, so for most battleships this is like 16 to 18 plus kilometers. However, from what I've been able to tell, this is really going more off of what your regular concealment is. So for the Republic, using full concealment commander and upgrades, it's 14.1. And yeah, it's a bit of a problem because this is 10% dispersion. That is a massive, massive amount of dispersion. This is the upgrade that American battleships get in slot 6 that you take over gun reload, which is usually the go-to on every other battleship at tier 10, right? But for the Americans, you want to take that dispersion because it's just so valuable. And so what you create is a situation where battleships are rewarded and they're incentivized to stay back so they can get 10% better dispersion at all times. And on certain ships, this is kind of disgusting. And if you saw the salvo on the Conqueror there at the beginning of the video, 18,000 damage on a cruiser of all ships with HE. But I mean, it gets worse. Let's see what I can do to a Montana superstructure at 19 kilometers. Like look at this dispersion. Anyone who's played the Republic knows that it can be a quite accurate battleship sometimes, but other times it's very wonky. But for the most part, you don't see those wonky salvos. Instead, you just see these laser beams coming out basically every shot. Look at this one. There's no vertical dispersion there, right? I'm going to hit a Montana superstructure 7 times. That was over 10,000 damage. It's a problem because like the only thing you want to do in a battleship right now is run Deadeye, sit outside of your concealment range, and take pot shots. And if you're not doing that, you get weaker dispersion. And the problem there is that the battleships that are doing that are getting better dispersion, which means they're hitting you much harder than you're able to hit them. 10% doesn't seem like much at first, but look at the difference between a Montana with and without that upgrade, and you'll understand that 10% is quite a significant degree. This is not a good patch. I'm sorry. It's very painful because we knew about these problems before they were ever introduced to the game. We knew about these problems when Wargaming did the public test. We asked Wargaming about them, and we even got a devlog about our concerns. Look at this shot on the Bismarck there. I miss it to the right, but if I had aimed that just a little bit more to the left, I'm hitting how many shells on a bow-in Bismarck at 21 kilometers? It's insane to me. And then the follow-up shot is just amazingly accurate as well. I am just so baffled by the choices made for this one. And it's not just that battleships are able to do more damage at range. That's not really the biggest problem. The problem is that battleships are incentivized to sit at range. And if you're not sitting at range, you're doing it wrong. But then, well, what if you're a cruiser and you try to push up? Well, all of your battleships are sitting behind you, so no one will tank but you. And all of these battleships have 30mm overmatch, so you get melted, so the cruisers have to sit back. Okay, maybe the destroyers can do some things. And yeah, for a little bit, they can, but they don't want to be spotted for the most part, unless they're French and open water gunboating you. So they'll just sit in detection, so the battleships still get to reap the reward of Deadeye. So everybody's sitting 20 kilometers away from one another, just trying to take pot shots and snipe the other one. And who can outsnipe who is really who wins the game right now. And it's awful. We we knew that this would be this passive before it happened, and wargaming blew us off, and that really is kind of annoying because we literally had a dev blog, an FAQ that said that yeah, some people like sniping with battleships, so we want to give them skills, and that was it. That was basically their response, and I'm not even remotely kidding. Every battleship that I'm currently playing in the game is either running Deadeye or I'm not playing it. Which means that there are two that I'm not willing to play, and that's GK and Kremlin. And I'm not really about to go into secondaries yet, but the fact that they severely nerfed secondary builds kind of baffles me as well, because if there's one thing that I thought wasn't overpowered or too strong in World of Warships, it was secondary focused battleships. The ships I always found that were very strong at tier 10 were Conqueror, Thunderer, and they got a buff. They got the biggest buff from Deadeye because they have the best concealment, so yeah. And that right there is back-to-back shots on two different Georgias that both score a double Citadel. And look where I am. I'm basically where my team would have spawned in the central of the map. Am I pushing? No. Are we about to lose? Yeah. But why should I push up when I have this powerful guns? And I would lose the power of these guns if I got closer to people. I mean, look at that dispersion. My front turrets formed one shell. If I knew how to aim with World of Warships, that Edinburgh would die 100 times out of 100. Needless to say, this has been very disappointing. Every battleship that I currently have at tier 10 right now is running Deadeye, and that sucks because this captain skill rework was supposed to provide diversity in builds. But everything that I currently have is set up to sit in the back and snipe. Now, there are exceptions. I tried Deadeye on the Kremlin. It doesn't work. But since everybody else is sitting this far back, and the fact that Conqueror and Thunderer are as popular as they are in this patch, and aircraft carriers got significantly better skills than pretty much every other class, I just sidelined the ship itself. Look, like, hold on. There's a shimmer that just got radared in front of me, and I'm going to go ahead and take a shot at it. Now, remember the salvos on the Georgia, the Edinburgh, and let's look at the salvo on the Shimakaze. Now, I kind of had potato aim again, but dispersion was much worse on the Shima, and he's 10 kilometers away. And that's just because I lost the Deadeye bonus. And, like, so imagine if I had been in a battleship that was trying to push into the enemy team, right? And I have a ship 10 kilometers away, but my dispersion is so bad I can barely hit it. Why would I ever want to even try at that point? I don't know. It was disappointing. Secondary battleships took a massive hit from this patch as well. 35% accuracy compared to 60% accuracy. It's not a 25% nerf. It's closer to a 50% nerf, and on the skill itself, and that sucks. As passive as the gameplay is right now, trying to push in ships like the Kurfürst and the Ohio and use your secondaries is almost impossible. Trying to push in as a Kremlin and get up close to people so you can get that Russian fancy dispersion formula, it's almost impossible. In fact, it's so difficult right now that I don't even bother to try, because the likelihood of it happening is incredibly low in any given game. So why would I bother? And then I want to go back to that one point earlier that I said where every battleship feels the same. Every battleship I have right now is running Deadeye. Every battleship has roughly 14 kilometers of concealment. Few exceptions, the British ones, the Bourgogne. But Montana, Republic, those all have this 14 kilometers. Vermont, everything like that. So it's just take a pot shot. Sit, wait for the opportunity to take a pot shot, and then move on. And it sucks, because nobody else can do anything when the battleships are this accurate. I've long since been somebody who's a firm believer in the fact that cruisers are the strongest class at tier 10. However, that has changed a little bit because of how good Deadeye is. When battleships are able to snipe cruisers with 30mm overmatch this effectively every single salvo, it kind of shifts the balance of power a little bit. Everybody is forced to sit further back. The cruisers need to sit further back, or they'll get blapped. The battleships need to sit further back, or they'll get blapped. The destroyers no longer have any support, so if there's a carrier in the map, everybody's gonna sit even further back. And it sucks because I think one of the biggest problems World Warships has is passive gameplay. And this commander skill rework has taken that passive gameplay and turned it up a notch. And that is just not good for the game. I think the ships like the Conqueror, the Thunder, the Republic were all very strong battleships before the patch. And to get their ability to snipe people buffed even further is mind boggling to me. So I don't think this is all bad, not all negative. There are ways to fix this. Of course, this skill probably needs to be heavily nerfed. And oh god, look at that dispersion. It hurts me. Deadeye needs to be nerfed. I'd honestly remove. You know what? I would rework the concept of the skill itself. I would think something that the other way around might be a better skill. Not even 10%. Like, just a little bit better dispersion when you get closer. Or, you know what would be cool? A skill that made battleships faster when a ship was close to them. So that way, if you're pushing in, you have an incentive to do so, because now your ship's actually able to push in better. And one thing I do really want to touch on with this captain skill rework is not only the fact that this one skill is kind of breaking the game, but there's also a large degree of scam that was put into this that really sucks. Now, you're gonna close your eyes, battleship mains. Okay, you can open them again. Nothing happened, but there was a large amount of scam that was put into the game with this. 19-point commanders were increased to 21 points as a maximum, but you still need to grind out the XP. Okay, well, how much does the cost go from commander skill to commander skill? Well, 19 to 20 is 500,000, 20 to 21 is 700,000. So, if you want a max point commander, well, then now you'll need 1.2 million commander XP per captain in order to get that. And the problem therein lies that some of the builds that you were probably running before, on say, like, let's look at the Kremlin. You would run the Battleship Superintendent skill. Not really sure what it's called now, but it's a 4 point, so it went from 3 to 4 to give you an extra damage control and a heal. You were probably running Concealment before, basics of survivability, and fire prevention. Well, and Adrenaline Rush. Well, Adrenaline Rush is a 3-point skill, Concealment's a 4-point skill, and fire prevention is a 4-point skill. Basically, the exact same build that you would run on the Kremlin before, that cost 19 points, now costs 21. But the difference is that you need to pay the game 1.2 million commander XP up front in order to get that benefit. And that is scummy. And keep in mind, there are 45 plus tier 10s in the game right now. A slew of premiums. And just a million and one different tech trees. So if you want to have max level commanders that you used to enjoy, well, get to grinding. And it sucks because this was such an unnecessary move by Wargaming. On top of that, they also increased the retraining costs. Elite commander XP costs for respecking your captain went up to 300,000, and the doubloon price also went up as well. So it's just like the commander skills, or this commander rework, feels very disingenuous from the perspective of actually making the game better. It seems like it was more of a monetization effort on Wargaming's part to get people who maybe not have, like myself, I don't spend money on the game anymore. I have like 100 premium ships. I've got 2 years of premium time waiting for me. 1,000,001 XP camos. Like, I don't need to spend money on the game anymore. And because of the state of the game with aircraft carriers, I refuse to spend money on the game. But Wargaming introduced all these changes in what seems like an effort to try to get people to re-engage with the game. And that's really shitty in my opinion, because rather than make a good game and make it something that's fun and enjoyable to play at all times, they seem to be making it more so that pay up whale or go play something else. It really comes off as a big fuck you. And that one is a little irritating to me. Now, not everything about the commander skill rework is entirely scummy. I do really enjoy the aspect that you can put your commanders on different ships with different builds. So, example, I can put Halsey, the American Special Captain, on one tech tree. That's the same as it was before. And I can put him on any premium. That's the same as it was before. But the difference being that Halsey can be spec'd for destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and aircraft carriers all at the same time. So if I have Halsey on the Des Moines, where I usually keep him, I can put him on every American heavy cruiser. Provided the captain skills work, then he'll just work on those, no matter what. I can put him on every battleship, and he'll have a separate tech tree for battleships. I can put him on every destroyer, and he'll have a separate tech tree for destroyers. And the same with aircraft carriers. Now, this really only works for premiums, because if you put him on a different tech tree, he needs to retrain. And I wish something about that had been done, but it was not. So it's not all bad. There are definitely some changes that Wargaming could do to make this better. It seems very half-baked to start with, and a lot of the concerns that we had were largely ignored, which is frustrating. But I do believe they can recover from this and work towards making the game better, but they need to make changes fast, especially with the Deadeye skill. That was a very dumb skill to put in the game. And yeah, I mean, carriers got a large amount of buff skills, but carriers were already broken before, so that's not really changed. Cruisers have a lot of weird and unique builds, so that's nice. Destroyers seem to have different builds as well. So, you know, there is variety to choose from, but as long as we have the Deadeye skill in the game, it's going to be very passive, and that just needs adjustments. Either way, I'll probably make some guides coming out for tier 10s coming up in the future for specific ships. I was wanting to do that earlier in January, however, with this rework coming up, I felt it would have been a waste of time or irrelevant too quickly. So expect some ship reviews coming out soon. I'm going to look at covering random premiums and random tier 10s that I enjoy playing, as well as new builds and ways to play them. But other than that, guys, I am out. Yeah. Check the link down below for the Twitch if you guys want to watch me live. Have fun. I'm out.